This is Theodorus Rex, and I'd like to talk a little bit about What It's Like to Go to War by Karl Marlantes. First, I'd like to say that Karl was a graduate of Yale University and a Rhodes Scholar at Oxford University. He served as a Marine in Vietnam, where he was awarded the Navy Cross, the Bronze Star, 2 Navy Commendation Medals for Valor, 2 Purple Hearts, and 10 Air Medals. I would just like to say I have a lot of respect for this book right away, and it's a nonfiction book with an incredible narrative hook. From page 1 in chapter 1, Karl finds himself in the pitch black dead of night of Vietnam and the jungles, supporting a friend that has been hit. The bullet went through his lung and tore a hole through his back. They set him up on his side in the drizzling rain to keep the good lung from filling with blood. At the time, they were surrounded by the enemy. There was no hope of evacuation, and even when daylight arose, the fog was so thick that the choppers couldn't make it to them. All night, his buddy was breathing hard as if he had run a marathon. You know, there were no painkillers. They didn't want him to go into shock. If he falls asleep, he would surely die. To help him stay awake and to calm his own fear, Karl crawled next to him and whispered stories into his ear. That is just the first chapter. Later in the book, Karl talks about how people come up to him and ask him what it feels like to kill someone, or how could you do it? How could you kill another human being? Things of that nature. And he goes on to explain that while it's not always pretty and you don't always obviously enjoy it, there are times when you are in the heat of battle and the bullets are flying in your direction, that when you kill one of the enemy, it's like scoring the winning touchdown in football. The title is an apt title because the book does just that. It tells you what it's like to be in the thick of face-to-face combat in Vietnam back in those days, and it's a great illustration, very detailed, and very ugly, warts and all, very honest account of things that happened, and all the things that the typical soldier goes through, from starving, from to eating cold meals, the rain, to the drama, the losing of friends, a litany of terrible atrocities that you have to plow on and live through just to see another day. The road to rehabilitation is also a long journey. And when the Vietnam soldiers came home, they were oftentimes spat on, or they came home to a lot of people that didn't really fully appreciate what they had done over there, didn't understand the war, didn't approve of the war, and so it just made things that much more difficult. And then you have soldiers that are really not equipped to rejoin society and live in the day-to-day. I found it interesting how cut off they were from the rest of the world too while they were over there. You know, back then there's no cell phones, there's no email technology, there's no these days, and a lot of times in war, the pilot flies a drone from even within the United States over in Afghanistan, and he's able to go home to his wife and children every night. Obviously, that's not the case in Vietnam. You are living there, and you have virtually no contact with the outside world, with politics, and you are there for the sole purpose of killing the enemy. And then it's a numbers game. He goes on to talk about, how they measure success in Vietnam and the kill ratio and things of that nature. In an effort to keep this review short, I'll leave it at that, but it was an excellent read, riveting from page 1 almost to the end. There's a little fluff at the end maybe. But fascinating book. Really gives you some insight into what it meant to be a soldier at that period of time in history. And I have nothing but the utmost respect for all those guys in Vietnam and what they must have went through. Don't even get me started. Anyway, you have a good day. I'll talk to you later.